At 35,000 feet over the South China Sea, a Boeing 777 carrying 239 people was cruising normally through the night. The weather was calm, the cabin lights were dim, most passengers were asleep. At 1:19 a.m., the captain signed off with air traffic control. "Good night, Malaysian 370. 38 seconds later, the airplane disappeared from civilian radar. No distress call, no emergency code, no warning. But it didn't crash, it turned around, and for nearly 7 hours, someone continued flying that aircraft into the darkness. In a world tracked by satellites and surveillance, how does a modern airliner simply vanish? This is the mystery of flight MH370. March 8, 2014. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 departs Kuala Lumpur just after 12:40 a.m., heading to Beijing. On board, 227 passengers and 12 crew. In the cockpit, Captain Zahari Ahmed Shah, a veteran pilot with over 18,000 hours of flight time. Beside him sat First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid, a 27-year-old co-pilot. Everything about the flight is routine. For the first 38 minutes, nothing is unusual. The aircraft climbs to 35,000 feet and cruises northeast over the South China Sea. Then comes the handoff. Kuala Lumpur Air Traffic Control instructs the flight to contact Ho Chi Minh Control. The captain responds calmly, and seconds later, the aircraft's transponder, the system that broadcasts its identity and altitude, stops transmitting. It doesn't fail automatically, it has to be switched off. 2 minutes later, the plane disappeared from civilian radar. In Vietnam, controllers wait for MH370 to check in. It never does. At this point, everyone assumes a technical glitch, but something else was happening, something almost no one knew at the time. Military radar was still tracking the aircraft, and what it showed was shocking. Instead of continuing toward Beijing, the aircraft made a sharp turn west, a deliberate turn. It crossed back over the Malaysian peninsula, then it flew northwest along established air routes. This wasn't random drifting, this wasn't turbulence. The path suggests controlled navigation. Whoever was flying that plane knew exactly what they were doing. Even more unsettling, the jet appeared to pass between radar coverage zones, avoiding detection. For nearly an hour, military radar tracked it as it moved toward the Andaman Sea. Then it vanished again. Now imagine the cabin. Passengers asleep, cabin crew unaware, no announcements, no visible panic, just a silent airplane changing direction in the middle of the night. But the aircraft wasn't done flying, because although radar contact was lost, something else was still listening. High above Earth, an Inmarsat satellite was communicating with MH370, not through voice, not through messages, but through automated handshake signals. Every hour, the aircraft's satellite system responded to a signal from space. Ping at 2:25 a.m., ping 3:41 a.m., ping 4:41 a.m. For 6 hours after disappearing from radar, the plane continued sending these faint electronic handshakes. By analyzing the timing of those signals, engineers determined something chilling. The aircraft was no longer heading north, it was heading south, deep into the Indian Ocean, far beyond normal flight paths, far from any airport. The final handshake came at 8:19 a.m. Shortly after that, investigators believe the engines flamed out from fuel exhaustion. The aircraft likely descended into one of the most remote stretches of ocean on Earth. And then, silence. The search for MH370 became the largest and most expensive in aviation history. Ships from multiple countries scanned vast areas of ocean floor. Sonar mapped underwater terrain miles beneath the surface. Months passed, then years. Only fragments were found. A wing flaperon washed ashore on Reunion Island. Additional debris surfaced along the African coast. Confirmed pieces of MH370, proof that it ended in the ocean, but the main wreckage and the flight recorders remain missing. Without them, the final minutes are unknowable. So what happened? Was it deliberate? Investigators examined the captain's home flight simulator and found routes extending into the southern Indian Ocean. Was it hijacking? 2 passengers boarded with stolen passports, but no group ever claimed responsibility. Was it catastrophic failure? If so, why the deliberate turn? Why the continued controlled flight? Each theory explains part of the story, none explain all of it, and that uncertainty is what makes MH370 so haunting, because this wasn't an explosion, this wasn't a visible disaster, it was controlled silence. Somewhere beneath miles of dark water, the answers still wait. 239 people boarded that flight expecting to land in Beijing. Instead, they became part of one of aviation's greatest mysteries. If this story made you think, I'd like to hear your perspective. What do you believe happened that night? Share your theory in the comments. And if you want more deep dive aviation documentaries like this one, subscribe and turn on notifications, because some mysteries may fade with time, but this one still echoes across the ocean.